Welcome once again to the Crit House. I'm Jeff Larson. Today we continue our first critique group with, again, just a fantastic group of photographers from around the country. Nina Welch-Kling is a New York-based street photographer who recently published her book Duologues. Granville Carroll is a photographer and educator teaching at Arizona State University. His recently published book is Dark Matter. Ellen Friedlander is a Los Angeles-based artist. She's the co-director of Pasadena Photography Arts. Jenae Lien is a Los Angeles-based photographer and co-founder of These Streets magazine. And Nick Gervin documents life in Portland, Maine. His recent book is called Portlanders. And I'm Jeff Larson. I'm the host of the Crit House. My book is called Sonder. And today we're going to discuss a new project by Granville Carroll, who's looking for feedback regarding the concept, connection of images, and subject matter, and initial emotional responses to his project, We Are Made of Many Suns. Here's that discussion.
So I have this project just started last year, working title, We Are Made of Many Suns. And so We Are Made of Many Suns is a project comprised of abstract, representational, and figurative images relating to the concept of emptiness. This project is a continuation of research I've done in reference to the philosophical concept of immanence, essentially stating there is no separation, liquid blackness, expansion of blackness beyond just racial constructs, which is also a research group at Georgia State University, and my own interest in spiritual and religious ideologies. The inspiration for this project sprang forth from the Mahayana Buddhist concept shunyata. This concept effectively states that the truest form of existence is emptiness, and this calls attention to the way that blackness arises and becomes how it is birth and death in the sequence of life, suffering, and healing. Shunyata, from my initial understanding, represents complete spiritual and psychological freedom. I consider this project an experience of nothingness as vast and meditative. It is an invitation to my audience to contemplate the intensity of the void through acts of minimalism, texture, form, light, shadow, essentially using formal qualities of art to speak towards complex belief systems. I understand that working with such an indexical medium poses a paradoxical question about how to replicate or visually express emptiness, nothingness, and the void. As with most of my work, I do not seek the answers to life's biggest questions. These images are intended to activate the imagination to ponder such paradoxes and lead the viewer into their own mental domain. These images are a spiritual exercise to challenge Western and colonized concepts about the world and our place in it, and each image acts as its own star, retaining its own solar system and effectively its own cosmology. And so, also a working statement. So, yeah, the feedback that I'm working on, I didn't really sequence the work in any particular way, but more so just wanting to see what reactions people have, whether it's emotional or some other reaction, and if it seems like it's coming together and working.
So I'll say it was interesting hearing you read your own statements, because one of the things I felt when I was looking at these images the first time was a certain amount of emptiness. This one particularly, even though there's a person there, I feel that. But I'll open up to the rest of the group to get their thoughts. I'm gonna call Ellen out and see what you think. It seems like this is the kind of thing that you may have some thoughts about.
Well, right here, yes. So in reading your statement and looking up Sunyata and the whole idea of the void, and it was the voidness that constitutes ultimate reality. Super interesting. And then when I got to this image, and then go to the next one, Jeff, please, and we'll go back. Now go back. This struck me as there's a word that I've learned, yoni, in Sanskrit, and it's womb. It's a feminine. It's the life force. And so all of a sudden, with your emptiness, it kind of made me think between these two images. And then as I went down the work, that perhaps including some of that in there, more so even, it's the Shiva, the linga is the male counterpoint and the yoni is the female counterpoint. And this is a really interesting, complex dimension to your idea of emptiness and the ultimate void and reality, right? It's kind of bringing it all together. So that's the deep dive your work made me take, is that I wanted, and it kind of feels like that, along with where you're going, could really crystallize a lot. Plus, how you would show this work, like because I think this work would really shine even more so if you figured out a different way to display it, you know, different material, just outside the box to help this make it feel as important as the question warrants.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point, because I'm thinking about that a lot, about how can I connect concept to output, or materiality. And so I've been thinking like maybe transparency and light boxes and really emphasizing that contrast of darkness and light. But yeah, I'm gonna definitely keep that in mind, because yeah, they should be more than just inkjet prints, I think.
They need to be more. Yes, I think that's what the work called to me when I was looking at it. Is like, okay, but there's like, I'm working on something now too that calls on, how do I show this work in a way that the viewer has to get involved a little bit more, right? And that's what I think would really make this work even more powerful.
And it is powerful. Others?
I felt that what I really appreciated was some of the photos felt like they were not made on this planet. I mean, they were so abstract, especially the one that Ellen was just pointing out, but then there are like these, you know, like the plant one, then there are these pieces that kind of brings you back to Earth. And it kind of is this reminder. So it's like this constant push and pull between having left Earth and then you're kind of coming back, and I'm not quite sure, you know, where I am. And so I think it's very strong in the textures. And yeah, I think, Ellen, it's a great idea to display it on transparencies, or, you know, or even, I mean, almost like with the sand one, I almost want to add sand to it. You know, so there's like, it becomes like this, I mean, I've seen artwork or in galleries often now where there is this underlying photograph, but then there's this otherness on top of it, this other texture, that so it becomes more textural and you can actually touch it. Or it could, I mean, for some reason I can see this being on the ground and continued with sand, so it becomes sculptural. Or with the, you know, with the very dark ones where, you know, there could be holes punched in. So instead of being a light, it could be, instead of these stars or, you know, the little light you could be punching holes with a needle. So there's this other element that is added to the conceptual piece.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I would have
that was really
never
good.
thought about that.
You wrote that down, right?
Yeah, that's sculptural
Yeah, I'm taking
element.
lots of notes.
Yeah, that was really good.
Wow.
Jenae, you have thoughts?
Oh, I just love this abstraction. And when there's a void, my mind tries to fill in spaces. And so I'm seeing faces and places that I'm not sure if there's supposed to be a face or not. And it's like my mind is trying to make sense and create a story from it. And it's so fun. I love the variation, the textures, some of them are blurry, out of focus. It really allows my mind to try to fill in gaps that are more of a feeling than anything that I could see in terms of like a reality.
There's one image, Granville, that pops out to me as being, I'm not sure it doesn't fit, but this is so graphical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I love
different from the other images. Now, again, I'm not sure it doesn't belong, but I'm just saying it is of a different feel.
I would agree with
Yeah,
that.
I was going back and forth with this one. This is actually a lamp. But yeah, it feels too illustrative. Like it's not a photograph. So I can agree with that.
I think you've got something really strong here, and I really enjoyed your write-up. And I hate to say this, but I usually don't enjoy people's write-ups. Like I'd rather just look at the artwork and see how I feel about it first. But your write-up is really good, and these images are really strong. Some stronger than others, of course, but as a series overall, I think you're really onto something. I think that it at the very least, I commend you on your ability to experiment. I feel like so many photographers are afraid to really experiment with the camera, with their machine, with their thoughts. And not only are you doing that, but you're saying something intelligent. So it's like, it's so good. I think it's just beautiful, man. And I think you should just keep going with this, whatever it is you're doing. And definitely listen to, what was it, Nina, who came up with all that stuff about putting a photo on the floor. That was so good, Nina. That was awesome.
Magic.
Yeah.
I'm
do
holding
come from
on.
a fine art. Sorry, I come from a fine art background, so
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you know, the more conceptual, it's like I can keep going.
I want to go to that
Please do.
exhibition now. Like I want to go
I
see
agree.
that.
So I'm sticking on this image just because I think it is. I'm going through all of them, and some are just stunning. But this one always moves me when I come to it. I can't tell you why, but it gives me something. So
Well, it's
thank you.
it's
Thank you for
outer
that.
worldly. It looks
Mm.
like we're like a pinpoint on the world and the universe has that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it's of this world, but it feels like it could be in outer space. I mean, a lot of your images feel like they are elsewhere and not necessarily of this planet.
Well, I think it's the lack of scale.
Mm.
Like the pieces, you know, none of the images really tell you. I mean, is it a stone or is it a mountain? So the sense of scale, by removing the kind of context where we can place ourselves, besides, you know, this is why I go back and forth on the plants,
Yeah.
because that I know exactly how big a plant is,
Mhm.
whereas all the other photographs, I have no sense of scale, and I love that. Like it really, I could be in outer space looking back. I have no idea where I am.
Yeah, when I was looking at this one, it made me feel like it was a photograph of the moon, you know, and that you were looking out into the blackness of the world from an image from the moon.
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys are tapping into the cosmic feel. This project is actually kind of it's different than other work that I've done before in the visual strategy that I'm taking. I usually love to work with color. I do a lot of digital composites. So I don't work with a lot of like quote unquote straight imagery. But I've been trying to challenge myself to work differently, but still utilizing concepts and ideas that are interesting to me. So yeah, so I'm thrilled to see that the cosmos is still coming through, and it feels not so straightforward because, yeah, like Nick said, I love experimentation. I like to push the boundaries on what an image can be and make people question it.
So, question for you: you have "We Are Made of Many Suns" as being the working title. What else are you wrestling with there?
I I don't actually have another title.
Okay.
um, that's about the one I was. So when I was living in New York, in Rochester, and recently just moved back to Arizona in August, and so I took a whole road trip, cross country road trip to move back. And I was listening to this podcast, and they had mentioned this book that wasn't exactly that title, but it had a similar feel to it. So I just wrote it down, or I had it in my mind, like we are made of many suns. Um, and so I keep thinking about, like, does it make sense? Does it work? And I was in the shower the other day, and I was like, you know what? I think that just might be the title.
Hmm.
Because like when you're thinking about, like, what does it mean when we're made of many suns? It's just the constant expansion and exploding and creation of stars and cosmos, right? That then gets pulled in, these nebula of cosmic gases and dust and particles get pulled in by gravity and shapes new planets and things. And, here on Earth, we are these organisms made of all of that stuff. And these pictures, therefore, are also made of that stuff. And so, yeah, so I think it has a nice sense of poeticism to it,
It does.
or it sounds poetic.
It does.
It might be
Well,
the title, but I don't have anything else.
Okay, I like it. I didn't know if you were wrestling with it, but well, that's great. I love the idea. I was thinking about how that phrase that we are all stardust. But thank you for showing your work, Granville Carroll. Great to see, and we're looking to see what happens with the project. And thank you to Nick and Ellen and Jenae and Nina. Thank you all for watching the Crit House.